Hi, this is James from Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today we're going to take a look at the 2 to 4 player game, OverBattle, the All War, published by Seether Games. In this game, you're going to play one of 3 factions or the Sin. The 3 factions were part of an alliance that has now been broken apart since the arrival of the Sin. The Sin are there to help you. So, throughout the game, you're going to be playing as one of these 3 different factions with a broken alliance, and one player could be playing the Sin. You're going to try to defend yourself from your former allies and using the help of the Sin to take control of the galaxy. The objective of the game is going to be control your home world and control at least one territory on each of your opponents. At that point, you can win the game. The Sin will help all the allies or former allies until a certain point in the game, either when someone's going to win or through a roll after I believe the 3rd round or whatever, they roll to see if they're going to break away, and at that point they'll become a normal player and fight with the rest. So let's go ahead down to the table here, give you a general overview of how the game plays, and then we'll come back and I'll give you my final thoughts. So I just wanted to show you how massive this board can be on here before we start out. But this is OverBattle, the All War. And we're going to go ahead over a couple things for the game, just go over a general overview of the game and how to play. So let's go ahead and begin. Okay, so you're in OverBattle. You're going to get 4 of these different trays, and they're going to be in the different colors. You have your brown, you're going to have your yellow, you're going to have your blue, and you're going to have your red. And the red's typically going to make up the Sin player. So you're definitely going to use that for that. And you're also going to get these little chips. You're going to get the little moons and asteroids, and you're going to get the planets. Each person's going to get their own little battle mat here. And in this is going to show the values for buying the units and different other things to help you out. It also shows you what your starting credits are for the game. It also comes with this really cool Cassie combat system, which we can go over in a little bit here. And you're going to get dice, 12-sided and 10-sided and 4-sided dice for combat and your control markers. The game also comes with your rule book, but it also comes with a very helpful unit guide, which goes over all the units in the game itself, and a player sheet to go over how the game is going to flow. So you got your main flow, and then you got your sub stuff here, which we'll go over in a second. And every player gets a little deck of cards that shows each of the units. So it's going to show the cost, it's going to show the attack, defense, and where it goes. So there's a lot of different units that you can use in the game, and there's a couple different upgrades that you can have and such. And you have your commander here too. To start out the game, we're going to go, and there's 8 steps to this game. Part of the setup of the game is actually the game. So the first thing you can do is choose a faction. There's going to be 4 different factions. The only one that's really different is the Sin faction. So if you're playing up to 4 players, one player's going to play the Sin faction, and they'll pick this one. And the other players are going to basically pick a color for what they want for the other unit, or for what they want for their units. Once each player has done that, you will then roll for initiative. And to roll for initiative, what you're going to do is you're going to roll your 4-sided die. Anytime you're going to roll for initiative in the game, you're going to roll this 4-sided die. And the player with the lowest number will go first. If there's any ties, you do a roll-off. And at that point, once you have determined your initiative, you're going to choose your planets. Now, each player, except for the Sin player, is going to pick a home planet. And there's 2 different sizes of these planets. There's going to be this large one here, and this balsa here. And these territories actually will matter for producing income, but each player is going to pick a home world, and they're going to pick one of these moons. So they'll pick a moon. Then it's going to go back through and they're going to pick their secondary planet. The secondary planet is not their home planet. It's going to be a planet that other people can put chips on and such. So they'll pick their secondary planet and they'll pick their secondary moon. And I just want to mention these are really cool neoprene mats. So I really like these. So they'll get those. Finally, the Sin player is going to get the moon that no one wanted. So whatever moon that no one wanted, the Sin player is going to get that. And there's some asteroids to pick from here. And also, after that, each player is going to, in turn order, place down their home worlds and then place down their secondary planets. And you're going to place them out like this. The moons need to be close. And then after everyone places their home worlds out, they're going to place their secondary planets. And a couple things. This is a very strategic portion of the game because you can sort of hem in the other players a little bit. And Sin will have their rogue planet wherever they pick that to go. And just to give you an idea of the board itself here and such. And you could put some asteroids out wherever you want and stuff like that. All right, anyway. So you have your board out there. I didn't put everything out, just showing you basically what it's going to be. And what we're going to go over real quick is the board itself. So before you get your starting units, and before we're going to go over that, we're just going to go over movement. Now, each unit has their own movement cost that you'll see. And when they're moving, you can move through these different squares. But you can't move through a point. So I can't move through like where points converge. So I can't move like through here to here. I can only move through the squares. And this is considered a space between these because their orbits right here, this little area right here are not touching. So this would be a movement from here to here. Anytime you move into a planet, you will have to do a full stop, planet or moon. So when you're traveling through space. All right, so from this point, everything's been the same. It doesn't really matter. The Sin player was the biggest difference on there, but there are some differences in the races that you pick outside of that. So if you notice here, this is going to be your starting unit, and your starting economy values it shows in here. This is the same for everyone, except for the Sin, which I'll go over in a second, even though it shows that. These starting units are different. The Sin has the least, but you'll notice that this one has more infantry to start. There's your space stations. This one has more scouts and destroyers. So each of them have certain differences in their starting units. And you're going to get these starting units and you're going to place them on your side. Then you get 150. You get 150 points for your ground units and 200 units for your fleet units. And the costs are up here. Now, you can't get the jump ship to start out the game, but you can get the other stuff. And you're going to pay for these all and put them on your side of the board. Then once everyone has got their starting units, they're going to go out onto the board and place them 5 at a time. Now, placement rules are pretty simple. When they're placing out units, you can place, let's say I'm the blue player, I can place them on my home world or one of these secondary planets, even if they weren't the secondary planet that I picked. I could also, on one of these secondary planets or moons or whatever, I could also place them where an opponent is. Now, to keep in mind that if I place them where an opponent is, with the exception of the Sin player, that's going to be a fight at the before the game even starts. So I could place out my units, which all have different units and stuff. And I'm also going to get a shield generator here and put 2 chips on it. When you have a shield generator like this, you're going to put it on your home world. So if I place it on my home world here, I'm going to get the little 2, which just comes with a really cool stack of chips here. I'm going to put these 2 chips here underneath it. And those shields have to be taken out before the ground forces can be attacked from aerospace, from opponents, or land ground troops on this area to attack my homeworld. Alright, so the Sin player here, they have a special exception. They can go anywhere they want, deployment-wise, even if it's in your areas, and they won't fight you. They're actually your friends. They will aid you in battle, and they will also aid your opponent in battle. Sin units can't be destroyed at all in the game until their inevitable betrayal. Once that happens, they're just like another player. The important thing to remember when you're playing this game is the objective of the game is to completely control your homeworld and have it control one section of every other opponent's homeworld, or in this case, the Sin moon, to win the game. Which sounds easy, but it's not. So, when you're working with a Sin and you're moving them with your troops and you're helping them with battles, you have to remember how much you're spreading them out to your areas and such for when they start attacking, and how difficult that is going to be to mitigate that. And as a Sin player, you're going to want to try to get out there as in many different places with your opponents in areas where you can win. Alright, so that's pretty much the setup. Once everyone finishes it up, you're ready to go and start the game. Now, if there's units here, you're going to resolve combat. You're going to use this Cassie system we'll go over in a second or two. And you're going to roll dice, and you're going to remove the casualties until there's one standing. The exceptions is, and this is the only time in the game that's going to happen, each player can decide if they're going to retreat. If they retreat, this is the only time in the game where they can retreat without having the other player be able to get free shots on them. So the rest of the game, you're going to basically be taking initiative. So this chart here is really nice because each round you're going to take initiative. The players are going to take their turns, and then you're going to do a victory check. Whenever you do the initiative, again, you're going to roll that 4-sided die, and the lowest number wins. Then you're going to do your declarations. You have to say, so it's combat and then friendly movement. So you're going to make your declarations of anywhere you're going to say you're going to have your fights. Now, one thing that's very important that I forgot is you're going to put these control crystals down in all the locations that you control. And why this is very important is because this is your income for the game. So each of these territories, if you looked at your player's chart, has a value. You're going to add these up when you do your income, and you're going to be able to use those for purchasing more units. So in the player turn, you have your declarations, which you're going to tell everyone where you're going to be attacking on the board. And you could put some of these chips out there so you can remind them. You're going to have to at least move one unit into all these areas that you're deciding to do combat. You're going to do combat, so you're going to move all your units to those places. You're going to resolve combat, which uses that Cassie system. You're going to use your strategic movement, which is just general movement that's not combat related. You're going to collect your income, which you're going to get points for all the different territories you control. If you control any of the moons, so it matters if it's going to be a planet or a moon or asteroid or whatnot, it's going to be again on your standard income values sheet. So every territory is 10, every asteroid is 20, and every moon that you completely control is 40. Once you earn so much income, so if you get 250 credits, you'll earn your first unit commanders. Unit commanders will help aid in battle. They generally give like a +1 results for you in battle, and you only have 2 of them. Now the Sin player will actually start with both commanders, so that is a big advantage on their part because they have very little units and they have no planet and such like that, so their income's less. Also, any shared territories, so if the Sin is here, any territories they share with you, they get half the value. So you will get your 10 and they will get 5. And that's the exception with Sin. Once you get all that, you can purchase all your units and place them out on the board. and each player is going to do this in turn order. Once those turns are finished, then you're going to go back up to the initiative, player turns, check for victory. And a victory again is going to be, do you have units on each one of the opponents? Do you control one territory in each of the opponents' homeworlds, and do you completely control yours? That'll matter in a second. What that means is, if you have that victory condition but the Sin hasn't turned yet, the Sin will immediately turn and they'll be able to control their own units, and the game will go for at least another round, so that can be undone by the other players. Also, at a certain point in the game, the Sin player will roll a die to see if they start to turn there. I think it's a 12-sided die, and then they will start fighting everyone, and they'll work like normal units. In combat, there's a couple different things to know. You're going to use this Cassie board here, and you're going to put your figures out in here, and this is going to be their power for the defender and attacker. And this is a three-dimensional simulation of battle. So when you're in battle, you'll have your units on here, and let's use a blue unit. And you're going to have your attacker and you're going to have your defender. This wouldn't be a very great battle, but we're just going to use this as an example. Now you can move your unit up here. If you're you can move the unit up here if you're an attacker, so you can get an advantage. And you can move your units down here to be more defensive and get an advantage here. But the units can only attack units that are in the next section. So this attacker can only attack units here. This defender can only hit units here, and so on and so forth. If there's no ability for units to hit each other, the battle will end and the attacker will have to withdraw. Now, before the battle begins, the defender can choose to retreat and the attacker can choose to withdraw. If the attacker chooses to withdraw, the combat immediately ends, and that's it. If the defender chooses to retreat, if they can, the attacker gets to shoot at the defender, and they'll have to remove any casualties away, and the defender will be able to move away, and the combat will end. Couple things to remember about combat that I thought was really cool is, if you have commanders, they're not actually present in this combat. They will give you your bonuses if you want. You have to declare that at the beginning of the combat. And you can choose to have your commander withdraw from the combat at any time without penalty, other than you won't get those bonuses. But if your forces are ever wiped out while your commander is actively helping with the battle, your commander will die, and you can't get that commander back. You can only have up to 2, and that's it. So it's an important thing to remember. Just really quickly, in a nutshell, that is how the combat system works. And there's a lot more to, well, not a whole lot more, but there's a little bit more to combat itself. Like, you're going to have different forms of combat. You're going to be able to fight in this zone here with your aerospace or space vehicles. You can also take your aerospace vehicles and fight in ground combat. If you're bringing a transport in to drop troops off and there's enemy space units in there, you have to resolve that combat first. If the transport's destroyed, all the units that are being transported are also destroyed. Another really cool thing about this game is, if one of your bigger ships is damaged, the damage remains. When you go to your reinforcement phases, when you're spending your income, you have to spend your income to repair these ships. And you're going to roll a die to see how damaged the ship actually is. And it can be fairly costly to get some of your bigger ships damaged, but you don't want to lose them because they're a big portion of your ability to control different areas and do different things. But you also want to protect them really well. So that is pretty much as simple as the game is. It has a big rule book, but the rule book itself if you look at it, has pretty big words in it. Not big words, but I mean big type, and it has lots of a lot of the pages have this is bad examples. A lot of pages have like big pictures showing examples on there. So the rule book itself isn't actually as big as you would think it would be. It's pretty intuitive to learn, and this sheet really helps you keep on track for the entire game. So basically you're going to, this is the operational framework, so this is the way that it goes until you claim territories, until you win, and this is the breakdown of the turns. So this is going to be your advanced segment. This is the main portion for every round, and then inside of there you're going to have your player turns, and then this is the battle phase in there too. So that's basically how you're going to play OverBattle. And again, it's going to go until a player can control their entire homeworld and one territory in every other player's and the Sin's homeworld, which is a moon, or until all the other players agree that that player is going to win. So let's go ahead back up to the table here, and I'll give you my final thoughts. So I really like this game. This game is a great small player count 4X style game. It doesn't take as long as, say, like Twilight Imperium, which is also really nice, and it's more intuitive. You can teach this game. Basically, I did the overview. That's really all you need to tell players. The little nuancy things you can go throughout the game. And there's a couple things I didn't go over, like the trans conduit, which you can use to move troops into different locations. And once you get that technology, also there's jump drives that help with movement and other things. But in general, that's going to be how the game flows. It's definitely how the game flows. It also, you can see there's a lot of pieces. There's over 1,000 pieces in this game. And the component quality is amazing. A lot of love and care went into the creation of this game. This game is definitely shows how much the designer really loved the game and wanted to make it succeed. The Cassie system is pretty neat, where you can have like 3-dimensional combat. You can decide whether you want to be more aggressive or go into defensive stance. I really like the shields that you can have to protect your ground units, the shield generators. I like that your ships, like your bigger ships, can be damaged, but they're not automatically healed after combat. You actually have to repair them. It's costly to bring those ships in, but those ships are also very important for ensuring that you can win different places. So it's sort of like a risk management thing. The Sin player as the really truly asymmetric player is really cool because you can use them to help take some of these places, but then you also know that you're helping like get them into different places around the board. As a Sin player, it's really cool to try to negotiate your way into getting your pieces where they need to be before you turn on everyone. So there's a lot of strategy and a lot of thinking in this game. And the game is also cool because the setup is part of the game. The setup is a very crucial part of the game, where you pick your homeworlds and your planet, your moons, and where you place them on the board matters. The farther they're apart, the longer the game will take. The closer together, the shorter the game will take, because the transit between the worlds will be shorter. So great game. If you're looking for a 4X game to play between 2 to 4 players, this game I would highly recommend. You won't be let down by any of the main portions of the game. It's going to be great component quality. It is going to be like an Amerithrash style game, so if you're okay with that, this is going to be a great option. So that's my thoughts on OverBattle, the All War. Thank you for watching.